Help! Hey, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and
Ooh,
that was an interesting. That was a nice, interesting panning shot. Anyway, welcome to the CineFiles. This show is one I have been waiting for a long time. This has been in the planning a long time, a very long time. And this show is the reviews of all of the Alien films, beginning with the original from 1979 all the way up to Alien vs. Predator. And I think this is going to be a very fun show.
Let's rock.
All right, let's go. All right, well, let's begin with the 1979 Alien, which was, of course, made because of Star Wars. Science fiction was big in the late 70s, and so 20th Century Fox probably released the biggest. And what is that tone we keep hearing? Well, hey.
Stop cursing.
Back to the show. But Alien was probably the first successful blend of horror and science fiction that really became a real blockbuster and made many sequels and is groundbreaking and often copied. And
I'll say right now, one of the greatest monster films of all time.
I can agree with you on that. It's probably one of the scariest films ever made. And
no one can hear you scream in space.
And it was a brilliantly marketed.
That was the little tagline, guys. Come on.
I know.
Help a brother out. Jerk.
But the 1970s, anyway, Alien is probably the scariest film I think a major studio released up until that time. Probably the most original monster ever created out of Hollywood. The film was influenced by two films that I was told. One was David Cronenberg's Shivers, which I think you guys can draw the parallels from, the parasite element, and a 1950s film called It, Terror from Beyond Space, which if you look at them back to back, it is very, very similar, with an alien being stowed away upon a ship and killing the the crew of the ship, not casting crew.
Yes, the cast.
The crew of the
killed all the stage crew and the actors.
Yeah, killing the grip and the boom.
It's one of the few films that you can say that was made in 1979 as a sci-fi big budget picture, and it still holds up today in 2006.
True.
Agreed.
And it's been. I had never thought of how many rip-offs there are of the Alien film. I mean, when you think about it, you know, big Hollywood movies are always ripped off. You know, there's tons of them, but I cannot think of many. You know, a movie that's been ripped off as many times as Alien.
It was one of the few times. I was a 9-year-old boy when it came out. It was one of the few times that I would just look at a movie poster and be freaked out. Because you look at that and it says Alien, and you see this egg in all this darkness, and I just was freaked out. And the commercial, the TV spot, that freaked me out as well. I mean, and then a year later, the Shining commercial freaked me out, but that's another show. I believe that Alien is your favorite monster movie of all time, correct?
One of my favorite monster movies of all time. But I was so fond of Alien, I actually have the original heavy metal comic book adaptation.
Really?
By famous comic creator Walt Simonson.
That's right.
And it's based on the original script, I believe.
Based on the original script, but it doesn't deviate that far from the movie. You know, who was the guy who used to do all those science fiction adaptations of movies? He did it I think he did it the second Empire Strikes Back and
Walt Simonson, I believe.
No.
I could be wrong.
The novelist.
Oh, I don't know.
It was like one of those three names.
This ain't about no books.
All right, never mind. Move on.
And the acting cast, the acting cast is brilliant.
That's one thing I want to say. Whenever you see a woman back at that time in the lead role as the hero, it was always cliched and being the tough bitch. The one movie that I remember was Johnny Guitar, where you have Joan Crawford as the tough butch lady, and it was always ridiculous.
Yeah, but no, the thing that's interesting about those is that Sigourney Weaver is not sympathetic at all.
No, she's not.
The film, and what I love about the film is that you don't know who's going to get it.
No, you don't.
They set up all these these kind of characters, and you don't know who's going to get killed first and who's going to survive. You think the Tom Skerritt character is going to turn out to be the hero.
That's what I love about it, because it's wow, she's the least person to survive. It's wow, I'm surprised she survived.
But here's a bit of trivia: the John Hurt character was originally offered to William Hurt.
And here's another interesting thing. Are you guys familiar with John Finch, who was in Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy?
Yeah.
He was originally the John Hurt character, and he was in the film. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. He was actually the character of Ash, the cyborg played by Ian Holm, and he got very sick because of the makeup and had to leave after 2 days of filming.
Really?
And feminists gave Aliens a lot of flack because they said that no matter how good this film is and trying to portray this feminist hero, it still resorted to putting her in the underwear at the end. I know that some feminist critics came out of the woodwork on that. Well, by the way, she looked very good in her underwear. That's some awesome space undies.
Well, the thing I liked also about the film is that, you know, they're running from this creature which you rarely see during the whole film. I mean, you see glimpses of it, but you never really get to see the full alien until
the end.
Exactly. And I mean...
And that's a payoff.
And the thing is, that's what today's monster movies are missing. It's like, you know what the monster looks like pretty much even before you go to see the movie.
You usually see it in the poster or the trailer.
Exactly. So that always... But see, why that worked is the same reason why Rosemary's Baby worked, is that it had your imagination going so that you're thinking of things far worse than what is actually happening on screen, which is why I like Aliens.
Great cast.
Great cast and
Harry
production
Dean Stanton.
design.
Yeah, once again, like I said, the production design holds up to this day. I mean, Ridley Scott knew what the hell he was doing.
It all works. It's very rare where all the pieces fit, and that's when all the pieces fit. You got a great score by Jerry Goldsmith, which is amazing. You have great production design, great performances, a great script, a great villain. And I have to say, it is a film that stands on its own even today. And for it to influence so many films, you know, in fact, very interesting trivia leading into the sequel. One of the films that it influenced was a film called Galaxy of Terror, which was made in 1981 or 82 by Roger Corman. And
Aaron Moran.
Aaron Moran gets disemboweled and her head explodes. But one of the production assistants on the movie went on to direct the sequel, Jim Cameron. And he got discovered on that film when there was a scene with a severed arm with maggots on it, and the maggots were just staying there. So he actually came up with a little thing and electrocuted them so they would move. Someone saw that, gave him the job of Piranha, then he went on to Terminator, and then got the job of the sequel, which we're going to get into right now, which is Aliens.
And I think, arguably, Jim Cameron's finest film.
And the best sequel of all time.
Yeah, you know something? Yes. I think I might be with you on that one as well. And it is every bit as good as Alien, but it's a different film.
I completely agree.
And that's what's great, because Alien, I will say this to my grave, Alien, horror film, Aliens, action film.
Exactly.
With some horrific touches.
And, and for an action film, it's got, not only does it have amazing pacing, I mean, to me, Aliens should be talked about in screenwriting classes on how to build your characters, and a lot of characters too. How to build your characters and how to take them progressively through each one of the 3 acts within a story. You get to care about these characters that are really supposed to be just two-dimensional caricatures, like Hudson, Bill Paxton's character of Hudson. I'm sorry, but I was heartbroken when he's hauled through the floor at the end. I mean, these are wonderful, wonderful characters, and you have to thank Jim Cameron. Jim Cameron earned his stripes on this film. He did almost everything from the ground up. And by the way, the DVD for both of these films are amazing because they include special scenes that were cut out. That there's an intro on Aliens that was not in the theater cut. There was an additional part of the ending sequence in Aliens with Tom Skerritt's character reappearing that was not in the theatrical cut. And these are meant to be seen on DVD, but when you get a chance to see them on the big screen, they're definitely a must. I mean, amazing.
That's one thing I want to mention too, since you brought that up. In fact, thank you for reminding me. What do you guys think of the special editions of these? I mean, Alien, there's a very famous scene which was cut out of Alien because of pacing reasons, and it was actually used in the Aliens, the sequel, with the cocooning and stuff, which you actually get to see and stuff,
The scene with Tom Skerritt.
Well, you don't get that included. I mean, you get to see the process, but you don't get to see... Tom Skerritt doesn't reappear in Aliens, though, but you get to see what happens.
Basically, the concept was used in the sequel, more so. Basically, and also, I want to note, the new director's cut, which has these scenes, actually runs a minute shorter, even though it has some extra scenes added. Ridley Scott said that he cut that scene because of pacing issues. It's a scene where, she's escaping to blow up the ship, and then she runs into the scene. It takes complete emphasis off the ship exploding, and you're completely somewhere else. Then you go, oh, wait, the ship's exploding, and she has to go again. He said that was why he took it out, and that's why, and he said that the original version was his director's cut at that time.
Also Aliens, to me, also one of the most quotable films.
Well, I want to ask you though. What do you think of those new cuts? I mean,
they're fantastic. I already said they're a must see for anybody.
You don't think
that
pacing ruins the film? That scene?
No, I think that you treat them like separate entities. I think that the original is fantastic, but it's also very interesting to look back. So I don't know if you guys have,
What do you think there, Jeff? Of the
well,
Alien
I
saga?
haven't really had a chance to see any of the special editions of Alien or Aliens. The only one I did see was Alien 3.
Which we're going to get to, folks.
Well, before that, you were talking about Aliens. What do you think? You say you think it's one of the.
I think it's one of the. I don't know if it's the best sequel. I think it's one of the best sequels because it depends on how you define sequel. But I think it's definitely one of the best sequels ever made. And to Cameron's credit, I mean, I think Terminator 2 is one of the best sequels ever made. And again, Cameron was behind that. So it says a lot to his talent. And yeah, the film he worked on was Alien: The Spawning.
Alien: The Spawning.
Yeah,
which
that's the one that he directed.
No,
that's a sequel too.
That's Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Piranha
2: The Spawning.
But sorry.
He said the best flying fish movie ever made, and I think I can agree with you on that one.
But it also starred Lance Henriksen.
Yes, who actually is also in the Terminator in a very brief role.
He was supposed to be the Terminator, but he played a robot in Aliens.
Yeah, so he kind of got to fulfill his dream.
But we digress.
And one thing that Cameron points out, I believe in the documentary on the DVD, or I read it somewhere, that he points out that the action sequences, the battle sequences, where the Marines, the Galactic Marines, are fighting the aliens in the catacombs beneath the city, were influenced by the bushfighting within Vietnam. He was very influenced by Vietnam movies and how the Viet Cong had fought the GIs, and he said that he took those situations and put them in his movie, and you can really see the chaos that these soldiers go through during their battles with the aliens. But let's go to Aliens 3, because
Aliens 3. We can all agree Aliens is probably the best sequel, one of the best sequels ever made, if not the best. But Alien 3 is a different story. It was
and let me say, this is where, on the documentary for Aliens, this is where the creator of the Alien, H.R. Giger, is quoted, "Oh, this is where things fall apart."
The great Swiss artist, let me tell you. Alien 3 was a highly anticipated sequel, came out in '92, and it was directed by a then unknown David Fincher, who's gone on to many better things, as Seven and Panic Room, The Game, and The Fight Club. It came out very disappointing to some. In fact, I was disappointed when it came out.
Edwin, let me take over.
Yeah, take over.
Just let him.
I never in my life, well, at that time in my life, had I ever been more excited to see a film. I saw that trailer of Sigourney Weaver emerging out of this bunker in this with her shaved head, and I saw Aliens 3. I almost just went nuts in the theater. I was so excited, and I went the opening night. I was so excited. I didn't read any reviews, and I saw this movie, and I was so mad. I have never been more angry when I left a theater. I was mad at a bunch of films. Independence Day, From Dusk Till Dawn. Never was I more angry when I left. I actually almost stopped being friends with one of my best friends that I went and saw it, because he claimed to like it really for no reason. But it was horrible, and I wanted to pass the blame on David Fincher so bad. I wanted to blame him, but I don't think he was really at fault. What I do want to blame is the trio of hideous screenwriters, including Walter Hill, who I normally like quite a bit. But he was responsible, along with the idiot that gave the story bite, because he must have had the original proposal. But it is the only pretentious lowbrow film I've ever seen. And to be fair, I did see the director's cut, which Edwin here recommended. And let me tell you something, it doesn't do much for the film. It has some of the worst writing, the worst dialogue. There's a scene towards the end where they're running with scissors. In Aliens and in Alien, you care about the characters. They each have their own distinct personality. In Aliens 3, they all have bald heads. You can't tell when one's dead and one's dying and one's going to be axed. They all look the same. And it's the worst dialogue. It's such bad dialogue that every other word is fuck. You know that that's bad dialogue in a film when every other word is fuck. And the special effects are some of the worst special effects I have ever seen in the movie. When you see the director's cut on DVD, sometimes the alien looks like a 10-foot tall creature. Now, granted, In this one, the alien came from a cow. So the alien is supposed to pick up the attributes of a cow, I guess, because in the theater version, he's in a dog.
He's in a dog.
But when you see it, the alien's supposed to be 10 foot tall in some scenes, but when you see him in other scenes, he, honest to God, folks, he looks like the Roadrunner from the Warner Brothers cartoons. You see him running away from things, and he's small and thin and running away, and he looks like the Roadrunner. I mean, this film is infuriating, and from the get-go, all the characters that Jim Cameron built up, like Hicks and Newt, he kills them off before the frame even starts coming onto the screen. I mean, he takes these great characters, and I understand that before this got greenlit, the script was supposed to be the Galactic Marines come back again, I think with Hicks leading them.
There was many scripts.
And they join up with 2 other alien races. One of the races happened to be the alien from the first one that was sitting on the cannon that had its chest blown open. That was one of the alien races, and there was a 3rd alien race, and they were finally going to go to where the alien homeworld was and finally eradicate them.
That would have been a very interesting story, but I mean, this movie, you have to look at what's there. I mean, there was many scripts commissioned, one without Sigourney Weaver, who didn't want to be involved at the time. They were going to bring back Hicks. Then she said she was going to do it, so they killed off Hicks, and all this. I mean, the film has had a very troubled production history. I didn't like the regular version that came out in 1992. I thought it was very lacking in terms of characters. It had many plot holes. Then I saw the special edition. Granted, it's still a flawed movie, and a lot of the special effects that you mentioned are bad. They were bad in the theater version, but they're also, some of them were added just for home video because it was never finished. There's lots of differences. The movie's about, I believe, 30 minutes longer, and in fact, a huge subplot is restored, which makes a lot more sense. And there's a lot more characterization. I thought Charles Dance was very good. Mm-hmm. I thought, I cannot think of his name now.
Charles Dutton.
Charles Dutton was very good.
Charles Dutton was terrible because he basically played this stock guy that really didn't fit in with these English prisoners. He was like the leader. He fist fought the alien as they were pouring hot lead on him at the end, but he was still fist fight. Who fist fights somebody? An alien while they're pouring hot lead. It makes no sense.
But you know what, the problem with the film is what you said is the script, because I thought it had a really interesting concept. The idea that she winds up on this like sort of
prison colony,
prison place, and they're left there forgotten, so they create their own sort of cult society. It had a lot of good ideas, you know. And
its execution was
it just
poor.
Was so poorly conceived. I mean,
if you think about it, it's almost a remake of Alien. It's the same thing. One alien loose in this big industrial complex.
True. And that's what made it disappointing.
But they had no weapons, which I thought was an interesting thing. They had to make their own weapons, you know, which they had nothing. I mean, in the first one, they had some flamethrowers and things.
Well, it's interesting, but again, it didn't fulfill the potential. I mean, like I had the opposite reaction to when it first came out that you did. I wasn't dying to see it because I was like, David Fincher, who? You know, so he made a 9 Inch Nails video, you know, all that stuff. And I was like, oh, gee, James Cameron, David Fincher, you know.
Yeah. Who was this guy?
So I totally was not psyched to see it when I saw it.
The one thing, too, I'll say is I was really disappointed with the way they used Lance Henriksen in the film.
Oh, just horrible.
Horrible. They wasted him completely. I mean, they could have done something with that. If you're going to put the person in the movie, then do something with him. Or don't put him in it at all.
Don't
Jeff,
waste
you want to add your 2 cents in?
Well, I'm pretty much, I don't hate it as much as you do, but, I mean, it's still a pretty bad movie. But just 2 things in the film really bothered me. One scene was where all the prisoners decide to attack Sigourney Weaver while she's in the trash yard. And it seemed like a scene that was just there to show Sigourney be tough, even though we already know the Ripley character from the previous movies. And I just felt like it was there because they hadn't done action in a while in this film. And I just thought it was ridiculous. And the other scene, it's not even a scene, it's a character that bothered me, was that there's this prisoner character who I guess gets burned but survives an attack. And all of a sudden he's running throughout the film, you know, like praising this alien as like a god. And I just thought this character was ridiculous and was just there so that they could have a reason for, like, when the alien's captured, somebody to release him. And that was really all this.
He was a plot device more
exactly,
than a real character.
And it was just a ridiculous. You could have thought of a better way to do it. But again, it all falls back to the problems with the script.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. Bad writing can sink the best idea in the world. Aliens 4. You gotta. It's almost like Aliens 3. You got a very promising filmmaker, or a very accomplished filmmaker. You have a script that's so atrocious, it sinks whatever good intentions it has.
I want to mention who wrote this before we begin, which is Joss Whedon, who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, Alien Resurrection is like a film written by someone whose English is their first language, retranslated into some foreign language and translated back into English. That's what the script is like.
Well, it was directed
Which
by
are
a French-
usually like a lot of French-American movies, like The Professional and The Fifth Element. They are usually like that. They seem like something's lost.
You know,
and Aliens Resurrection
there's a lot
is
of good
great
concepts in the movie. I mean, I thought was interested in a lot of the things that they had, like, you know, they were trying to clone the Ripley character, and she has a little bit of the alien in her. I thought that was interesting.
But once again, that execution is so poor.
It's the execution.
Not poor, I should say atrociously horrible, because if Sigourney Weaver has the alien DNA in her, why prove it? Now remember, we're thousands of years in the future. Why prove it to us by having her beat a bunch of guys in basketball? If that is not that's almost like a John Peters move, and we all know what a retard producer John Peters is, that to have her prove it in basketball. And why would you nickname the character Ironsides, the guy in the wheelchair? Why nickname him Ironsides? This is like in the year 3000 something, or something if so far flung into the future, and you're naming a character after a 70s TV cop? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I mean...
Well, my problem with the film is I sit there and I'm just wondering why did you even bother to make this film? To me, I mean, there's some cute camera tricks. Oh, well, I know why, but
she
it's
got
just
paid $17 million for that movie. You know?
Exactly, and there's a reason she never got paid $17 million again, and because it was just
That's the truth, Ruth.
I mean, she's a good actress, but it was. I just sat there and it's like, yeah, this would have been great. You know, some of these ideas in a different film, but it's like, why even being made? It didn't really need to be made, and I just didn't like it. I mean, and it has actors I usually like. It has
Ron Perlman was wasted.
Exactly. I always like him, and I'm just sitting here like, this character would have been great in a different film, but in this film, it's like, why bother?
Well,
I thought there was a nice little relationship between Sigourney Weaver and a writer. You know, that was kind of interesting how they were trying to develop that. But other than that, I totally agree with you.
I thought it had a lot of great ideas. It's just like you said, the way it was assembled was poor, piss poor. I mean, you have the thing where the alien becomes kind of human at the end, and
no,
gives
it doesn't
birth.
become. That's her genetic. That's like her baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that she gives birth to a
Right.
baby who's half human, half alien, which is
But
interesting.
that was a nightmare. I thought that was
but
a
it's a good idea, but the way it's staged is so stupid. It looks ridiculous. It has big
I think
man boobs.
it actually had the baby crying too.
Yeah, and then it killed the mother.
Oh.
And Dan Hedaya's character was ridiculous to me, the whole film.
I mean, that was my I like the scientists. I thought the scientists
Brad
were
Dourif.
Brad Dourif. You know,
Do we think the movie would have been any better if Danny Boyle directed it? Because he was supposed to do it.
I don't know, because
And he turned it down because he was afraid to do a big budget film.
You got that script problem though. It was
Yeah.
a bad script. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that Danny Boyle probably would have brought Ewan McGregor in. He probably would have brought Robert Carlyle in. He would have brought the actors that he was used to.
But still, there's good actors there. Like you said, Dan
Yeah.
Hedaya is good, and then you got Ron Perlman, you got
Brad Dourif.
and Dominic Pignon, who I
Yeah,
love.
It's good.
You know, and
But the dialogue. Oh my God! I mean, when they're watching, there's that scene where Ron Perlman's watching it's like a galactic home shopping network, and they're showing guns, and he's like, "This is a really good show," and it's like, "This is stupid." I mean,
I want to say one more thing. There is one really like crap performance in it. One that just got my nerves. Winona Ryder, I thought was just god awful. Is this person named Call, who you find out is basically another Lance Henriksen character, another
synthetic
android. Yeah, and I thought that the way that was.
She
put
could
in.
have been better. She could have been better.
The problem was that she's supposed to be around all these tough guys, and you just look at Winona Ryder and you realize she's not tough. So that was my main problem with her character. It was like she was too soft.
But how can you? Once again, how can you prove her DNA is superior to the others with her playing basketball? I just don't understand. I hate to dwell on something but you have these so many stupid moments in a film that you're halfway through, you're just like, I can't forgive this. I mean, Sigourney Weaver, the studio must have been so gutless as to say, we can't make this film without her, oh my God. And to resurrect her with the DNA, it was just, It was just horrible.
I do like the director, though. I love Janelle. I think he did two
him
amazing films beforehand, and he was the right person to do the film.
But
It
it's
just
clear
didn't
that
work.
he didn't have control. The studio had control, and that's why the film failed miserably.
It failed miserably, and it looked like it was.
Well, he obviously had control over the casting. I mean, he used a lot of his key actors in it.
And he
But
actually, I heard
he
had
must have not really cared much about the script. They must have just
there
given
was a
him
lot of
working script
communication problems. He had a translator the entire time talking to him.
Yeah,
as
I was
he
going to say
doing
he
the film.
doesn't speak English.
He
or
does now,
speak-
but
yeah.
not then. He didn't.
No.
It is the first time we see CGI alien.
Which was
That's
really
true.
bad. Swimming.
It was bad.
Swimming.
The swimming alien was bad.
So, well, just when it looked like it was a death for the Alien franchise, we're going to talk about this briefly, as we already done another show on it. We got two franchises combined into one, which is Alien versus Predator, which was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. I enjoyed it as a popcorn movie. In fact, it just came out recently in a new extended DVD, which is an R-rated cut, which we always knew existed. Guys, just real quick, just sum up your feelings really quickly on
Should have been R-rated. I thought it was okay for what it was. It's no great masterpiece, that's for sure. And the storyline really reaches everywhere. I mean, the storyline really makes no sense a lot of times, but for what it was, I mean, it was okay, I guess.
Well, there is a new cut, so you can judge for yourself, which actually I heard is the actual R-rated cut as it's supposed to be. So.
It's entertaining, but again, it seems like a money movie. I would say just catch it on cable, just to actually see it, but it's not something you should run out and purposely go see.
A very annoying movie.
Really?
I thought it was very annoying. I've tried to see it twice, and there's a point in the film, I can't tell you where it is exactly, where I just stopped watching it.
Really? You gave up on it, huh?
I totally gave up on it.
What is that point exactly?
I don't know. Maybe it's a point where one of the predators is fighting one of the aliens, and then the alien manages to overpower the predator. But I'm so annoyed at how they conceived the predators. The predator characters. They made them more muscular and more.
They changed the makeup.
Yeah, and everything. And just the whole thing just seems so clunky to me, and such a cash-in.
I hated I didn't like much for the Matrix fight sequences between the alien and the predator.
It's the typical Anderson type touches. I mean,
I don't mind Paul Thomas Anderson,
Yeah,
but he
I know you
definitely.
don't.
Anyway, that's
Event
it.
Horizon.
As you can
Yeah,
see,
I-
our credits
I-
are rolling.
Guilty pleasure,
So
folks.
It sucks.
Time is over, but the best films for us, I guess we could all recommend, is The Alien and Aliens, the two best films in the series and two of the best science fiction films ever made.
And Aliens 3, if you really like Aliens 3, I hope you fucking die.
Hey,
pretty
give the director's
harsh.
cut a chance. Look at it. It's an
I
interesting
think you're an
comparison.
idiot, basically. I think you're a moron.
I don't
you
think
can
I
write
like-
us
just
and
take a
defend
look at
yourself.
it.
You're an
From the
idiot.
mouth of babes.
Email us at cinefiles@dvdmaniacs.net.
And if you like Aliens 4, there's no hope. Help.
Help! Hey, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and that was
that
an
was
interesting.
a-
That was
that
our.
was
I guess
good.
that was a nice, interesting panning shot.
That,
Anyway, welcome to the CineFiles. This show is one I have been waiting for a long time. This has been
too!
This has been in the planning a long time, a very long time. And this show is the reviews of all of the Alien films, beginning with the original from 1979 all the way up to Alien versus Predator. And I think this is going to be a very fun show.
Let's rock!
All right, let's go. All right, well, let's begin with the 19th Terror from Beyond Space, which, if you look at them back to back, it is very, very similar, with an alien being stowed away upon a ship and killing the the crew of the ship, not casting crew.
Yes, the cast.
The crew of the
Killed all the stage crew and the actors.
yeah, killing the grip and the boom.
It's one of the few films that you can say that was made in 1979 as a sci-fi big budget picture, and it still holds up today in 2006.
True.
Agreed.
And it's been I had never thought of how many ripoffs there are of the Alien film. I mean, when you think about it, big Hollywood movies are always ripped off. There's tons of them, but I cannot think. And it was a brilliantly marketed.
That was the little tagline, guys. Come on,
I know.
help a brother out.
Jerk.
But the 1970s, anyway, Alien is probably the scariest film I think a major studio released up until that time. Probably the most original monster ever created out of Hollywood. The film was influenced by two films that I was told. One was David Cronenberg's Shivers, which I think you guys can draw the parallels from. the parasite element, and a 1950s film called Alien, which was, of course, made because of Star Wars. Science fiction was big in the late 70s, and so 20th Century Fox probably released the biggest. And what is that tone we keep hearing? Well, hey.
Stop
anyway,
cursing.
Back to the show. But Alien was probably the first successful blend of horror and science fiction that really became a real blockbuster and made many sequels and is groundbreaking and often copied. And
I'll say right now, one of the greatest monster films of all time.
I can agree with you on that.
I
It's
agree
probably
with
one
you.
of the scariest films ever made. And
No one can hear you scream in space.